Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing good. So we're answering today another great question that we got from one of our listeners. And this question is, how do you know it's time to make a change to your brokerage, or what are some indications to look out for? I loved this question
It was a
because,
good one. I was surprised we've never gotten this.
yeah. How long you've been with how many companies in your life?
I've
Two?
been with 1, 2, 3, 4. Keller Williams was my fourth. I started working for a builder that was a real estate company. And then I went to another kind of smaller brokerage, but then we walked into an office meeting one day and they told us that they'd merged with Remax. So that was a kind of a short time frame because I was only there a little bit before we actually became Remax. And then it spent a little over 6 years at Remax, and then moved to KW, I guess 8 years ago.
Yeah, I've
But
been actually.
technically 4.
I've been to 4 also. That's funny. And I've been with KW almost 30 years, I think. Wow, that's gone fast. Oh, my other
Wow.
3, I guess I went to pretty quickly and went out pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So
that was
I would probably say, you know, I think sometimes when we hit a ceiling of achievement in our business, we sometimes look around for the answer outside of ourselves that really should be found inside of ourselves. So, one, I would probably say, is that what you might be doing? Or is there some things you need to learn and grow and focus on and get new models and systems for? Because that's how you break through a system, a ceiling. And then I would ask myself, is anybody here at this company helping me? Or is there any help at this company to teach me what are those models and those systems and those tools that I need to
Yep.
to break through this ceiling? So that was my first thought is, what ceiling have you hit?
Yep.
And is it a ceiling that, because going to a greener pasture when you've hit a ceiling doesn't solve it. You'll go right back over, you'll go over to that place and hit the same ceiling again. But
Totally.
then, but then again, if breaking through the ceiling means you got to get a new focus, new models, new systems, and new tools, and you need training and help to do that, and that company doesn't offer that, then I would say you kind of have to move. What
Yeah.
would you say?
Yes, 100% agree with that. And, one of the very first things I thought about when I read this question come through our email is sometimes I think before you even think about moving brokerages, and I would say this to anybody, even people that I've tried to influence to come over to be with us, is are you engaging and plugging in where you already are?
Hmm.
Because sometimes I think people say yes to that and then they're hitting the ceiling, they're not getting what they need to grow, and then other people would say no, I really am not, I'm not engaging, I'm not plugging in. So I think first you have to kind of point thumbs and ask yourself, are you engaging and being plugged in? In my situation, I was very engaged and plugged in when I was with Remax, and I loved it. I loved our office, and I loved everybody I worked with. For me, it was a totally an opportunity move. So I think the next thing I wrote down is, what are your opportunities? Is it an opportunity to grow a bigger business that you already have? Is it an opportunity to be a part of, something else to that you won't have, like a leadership opportunity or an ownership opportunity or a title partnership opportunity, or what is it that maybe you don't have where you are now? Because I think actually, just coming off of our last podcast talking about new opportunities, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And I think for me, a lot of it was, okay, how can I go achieve more opportunity? I can still sell real estate, build a team, and then have additional opportunities. So I think you have to, are you engaged? I love what ceiling have you hit, or have you hit a ceiling? Because everybody's going to at one point or a time. And then the biggest question I always think about and I always challenge other people to ask is, what are your opportunities where you're at? And are you looking for something bigger or different, or more challenging that you aren't ever going to have where you're at? I think of Pam, like she's such a great example because her dream was always to own her own, have ownership in a brokerage, right? And she was never going to have that opportunity where she was. And so she went out and found another opportunity. So for me, a lot of it is about opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then one of the things I would say too is you know, when you look up at your leader or the people who have been in that company maybe longer, do they have lives that you want?
Totally.
I've always looked at my leader and said, do they have a life I would want? Because if they don't have a life I would want, then I probably don't want to stay on that path or that journey. But if they have a
Yep.
life and they're willing to share and help me. And now sometimes they have a life that you want, but they're not willing to share and help you. We taught wealth building here in Dayton the other day, and just, my heart was so warmed by how appreciative everybody was. And I know it's because that's a relatively new office. They had all come from places where I'm sure the owner of their office was quite wealthy, but wasn't willing to share and help them figure out how for them to get wealthy.
Yep.
And so I'm always just so shocked at, number one, they were so appreciative, and that was really sweet. And then number two, I'm always in shock that people have a mentality that if I help you win, I must lose, instead of thinking, you know what, there's enough here for all of us. I'll
Yep.
help you because somebody helped me. So I always say, look at the leader. Do they have a life you want? And then are they willing to make their world big enough so that you can have more opportunity? Are
Yep.
they willing to help you find out what your next opportunity is? And if they're willing to do that, man, that's a great place. And if they're not, then I would probably start to question, mm, am I at the right place, or am I sitting here wasting time somewhere where I could be gaining ground a lot faster somewhere?
Yep. I wanted to share this really fast. I figured that you taught there because I saw this on Facebook and I thought it was so sweet. Martha and Aaron Maggard, I think they must be in the community partners office. They posted on their Facebook and a quote that you must have said it at the wealth building thing, and she said, from Linda and Jim McKissick, we need to do the little things like they are big things so that God can do the big things like they are the little things. And
Yeah.
I said, oh my gosh, I love that. And she said they were incredible today. The family is awesome on so many levels. They always add value and are truly humble. And I thought about that and I thought, gosh, that's so true. And I do it. And that made me think of what you just said, because I think who you are under as a leader is so important.
Hmm.
And sometimes we get so busy stuck in just the day to day of our jobs and of, our roles and doing the things that we should be doing and all this other stuff. Um, and it's interesting to me that sometimes people don't realize how much of an impact their leader can have on
Hmm.
on all of that stuff. And just who you're in business with. I mean, I know we both have been in business with people that, weren't maybe great leaders, and then we have been under really great leaders, and you can just tell such a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, also a lot of times when I've talked to people about making a change, because you and I do that on a regular basis, we will find someone that we really feel like would be a good fit, and we'll go have a conversation about getting them to change. And the
Yep.
one that always shocks me is the one that's unwilling to investigate, or that you say, well, because 9 times out of 10 most people's issues can be solved by better training,
Yep.
because if someone knows how to do something differently, they'll do it differently and they'll get better results. But I'm always shocked that they go, oh, we got great training. But if you haven't ever compared it, because
Yeah.
like you said with Remax, you felt like the training and stuff was good, but then you came to one of our trainings and you realize, oh my gosh, there is such better training, right? I kind of was trying to remember your story because somebody told me it the other day.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I thought that well, I don't know if I should say that or not. I mean, it's not to be negative, but I thought watching Brian Buffini videos in a basement was all there was to it. You know what I mean? And then I went and heard you teach 10 listings a month forever, 10 listings a month for the rest of your life, or for whatever that class is. It's so good. You need to bring that back out, by the way. But
It's
um,
now online.
okay, there we go. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've never heard anything like that. And I think that you don't know. I always say this: you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah.
And I never knew. I had no idea, and I had a good business, but I just never knew. I never knew how much bigger it could be. Um, and I think that sometimes is really eye opening.
Yeah.
Well, and the more that I think about it too, I think I just always knew that I never wanted to sell houses only until I was 100 years old. Um, and so I just knew that I loved real estate and I'm passionate about real estate, but I think I knew that at some point I didn't want to continue the day-to-day listing and buying with sellers and, all that stuff.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is I think a big important thing about where you are and who you determine wealth for is, like you said, super important because if they don't make their life big enough for you to have a next opportunity, then you're kind of stuck doing something that you may not want to do in 10 or 12 years from now.
Yep.
But the other thing is how cooperative are the people around you?
Yep.
I think we learned through COVID, yes, we can all go home and hunker down,
Yep.
but we all really need each other. And I've just found that being around each other and watching each other thrive and grow helps me thrive and grow. So I think who else are they willing to share and help, and are they people that want you to win and that aren't afraid that if you win they're going to lose?
Yep.
That's matters to me too,
Totally.
because I think the you have to have a productivity specific environment, and that's the other question I would ask myself is how productivity specific is it? I have to tell you this funny thing. We recruited an owner of a real estate company into our company. Well, I this just warms my heart, makes me so happy because it's someone that no one ever thought would join us, right? And so he goes, I hear the story secondhand, but this is what I heard. He goes, well, first of all, he said out loud, this company is the best kept secret in real estate. And I know he's thinking under his breath, thank God I sold my company already, now that I figured out what this Keller Williams thing really is, because he's always walks by and the training room is full and people are on the phones and it's busy, productivity specific environment. And you just see him smile and shake his head. It just makes me so happy. And his whole family's there and they're super happy and their lives are changing every day. And they were already super successful, but they're now in such a productivity specific environment. They're just learning new ways to do it, to leverage themselves and have better quality of life. And he goes on an appointment the other day, and I guess he's not used to competing with anyone, and he had some competition. So he winds up telling the seller, well, I've been with one of those little small companies before, and they just don't have anything to offer like this Keller Williams does. And he got the listing. So I'm just cracking up. I'm just because it goes back to what you said. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He would have spent his last breath when he was over at the other company. And by the way, his company wasn't super small. It was probably a good medium sized company, 400 or 500 agents. But he sees it differently now. Now that he's inside, he
Mhm.
sees it from a different angle and he sees it
Totally.
differently. I just think that's so awesome. And so we
Yeah.
don't know what we don't know. So go investigate and see if there's opportunity or something bigger out there, and but also plug into what you have. And
Yeah.
if what you have you're not utilizing every bit of it, like you said, there's no sense in changing to something else.
Yeah. Well, I think a change is a big deal. And I always say I think that there's a right brokerage, for everybody. I don't think Keller Williams is right for everybody.
No, for
I
sure.
don't think Remax is right for everybody. I don't think EXP is right for everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. I think you have to your values have to align with that company's values. And for me, as soon as I knew KW was a God family business company, then for me, those values aligned.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times you have to go back to do your values align, and are you able to get to the goals that you want to achieve, and do you like the people that you're surrounded with, just all of those things. Because I know I've had people join us and leave us. I've had people leave us and come back to us. I mean, I think it's just there's a
Mhm.
lot of factors that go into choosing a brokerage. And at the end of the day, I always tell people this, and I swear I think there's like a NAR stat somewhere around it, but um, you're I think it was like 80 something percent of clients don't even know
What
what
you are.
brokerage. Yeah, they have no idea. They just know the agent.
And that's the number one fear that keeps people from moving. When you and I recruit someone, one of their fears is that the people do business with that company. And I remember a story years ago when we were open one of our first offices in Indianapolis, and Kim was the team leader and I was the operating principal. And Kim went on a listing appointment with, I think, with one of her agents, or maybe it was Kim on a listing appointment. And the person said, well, didn't you leave the number one company? And I'm sure someone prepped this person to say that, didn't you leave the number one company to go to this this other company? And she said, yes, I did.
Yeah.
And then so she starts realizing she's going to have to convince him that it's about the agent. So she asked
Yeah.
him, she said, well, let me ask you a question. You moved here from Michigan, right? He said, yeah. She said, what company was your agent with? And he couldn't think of who the agent, what company. So finally, in a minute, you could tell he's still bugging him. So he says to his wife, go in there in my drawer and get me that pen out of my desk drawer. So she brings the pen back, and the agent he sold his house with in Michigan. And she said to him, did you really like that agent? He goes, oh yeah, best. It was the best agent. He come to find out the agent was a KW agent.
Oh my gosh.
But it proved the point that it doesn't matter what company, your
No.
business will be determined by you. Now, it could sometimes give a leg up if
Right.
somebody's had a good experience somewhere else with that company, or they know that that company's number one. You can always convince the seller if you're good enough that really it's about what I do, but it's also
Yeah.
it might help them to pick you or choose you to come out on an appointment because you're with the number one company. I think it's kind of funny because that is the number one fear that keeps people from looking around. And yet, when you ask the consumers, they don't really know who you're with anyway.
No, and I always tell agents, like, you should choose your brokerage because of the value that you get and the people that you're surrounded by and all those things, not because you're worried about your clients, because they don't know who you're with and they don't care who you're with. You know what I mean? The brokerage should be for the agent, not necessarily for the client. So
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is if someone's thinking about making a switch, and also I think too, if you are thinking, you just have to do your research. I mean, meet with people. For a lot of people, it's when you meet with somebody, do you connect with them? Do you align with them? Do your values align? Because a lot of times we think that it's just about the money, and most of the time it's not about the money.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to, the last point I was going to make on it is don't pick it because it's the cheapest, because usually you're going to get what you pay for. And the value being somewhere is worth everything if you get the value to help you grow your business even bigger than you can grow it. And
Yep.
you cannot save your way to wealth. It's not possible, right?
Yep.
So, saving even $10,000 somewhere, what I've noticed is when people start doing that, it's one step before they're out of the business. They're
Yep.
actually hopping down in price, and the next thing you know, you look up and they're not even in the business at all.
Yeah.
So
It's sad.
I think the last thing you choose it for is because it's the cheapest.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think you just have to make a list of what's important to you. And, a lot of agents, I would say, even stay where they're at. I mean, multitude of reasons, but just the community. I mean, the people that they love who they are in their office with, and they love the community and the culture and all those things. And I think sometimes we forget about that. I was actually talking to an agent that was with one of our offices and left, and we went to coffee, or to, I don't drink coffee, but she drank coffee, but I drink tea anyway. We went to breakfast, to coffee tea, a couple weeks ago, and she said, the one thing that I really miss is just being around everybody, just the
Mhm.
community and the culture, and that aspect of it. Not, she said, I learned everything I needed to learn to grow my business, but I miss that community feel and my friends that are there, pretty much. And
And, it
getting
always
those
makes me
back.
nervous when people think they've learned everything they need to
I
learn.
know.
I mean, seriously, I'm still learning every day.
Well, especially now. I mean, I'm doing these industry updates, and actually next week I have Jason Abrams hopping on to be a guest, because I'm like, stuff is changing so fast. I mean,
Yeah, so
it
fast.
you have that would be another thing I would say that I didn't even have in my notes written down, but is your brokerage and or your leader keeping you up to date with our industry? I mean, because it's insane. It's just changing, like, every week. I feel like it's getting different and more different and more different.
Yeah. Yeah. And, is the leader you're following one foot out the door? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I find those are the ones that are not paying attention to what's going on in the marketplace. But if they're one foot out into the door to go to Florida for the rest of their life, you can
Yeah.
imagine how much they care about keeping up with what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, totally. Is there still validity with them? Yeah, that's a great one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've kind of answered this one as much as we can. Do your due diligence, know what you need to break through your ceilings, and make sure it's being offered where you are, and maybe it's being offered and you don't know it, but so investigate and find out. And if it's not something that's offered where you are, then go see if you can find it offered out there somewhere else, because staying below a ceiling of achievement is super expensive. And it's when I find most people start looking for greener pastures. And I can totally understand that if you know what you're looking for. If you know that
Yeah.
you got to have new models, new systems, new training, new focus, go find that go look with that in mind rather than uh, any other reason you might pick a company.
Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree with all that.
Awesome. So remember, if you have a challenge, an opportunity, or a question that you'd like for Dana and I to cover, reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate, and we'd be happy to answer it on air for you. And then if you know of someone who would benefit from listening to this podcast, be sure and pass it along. And if you have not already hit subscribe, be sure and hit subscribe and help us get to our 500 reviews by giving us a 5-star review. So Dana, I guess I'll see you next week. And then the next week we might be together in Austin, right?
Yes, I'm super excited about that. I was hoping that you were going to be there, so that'll
Yep.
be good.
Good. Are you gonna be there at the end of the week or the beginning?
I'm there on the 25th and 26th.
Me too. All
Yeah.
right. See you then. Have a good
Sounds
week.
good. See you
See
then.
you.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.